So if I had to give you some context around, what we're seeing shift-wise, I think a lot of things have been accelerated digitally as a result of COVID. If we think about our parallel industries like the retailers and, the growth of online shopping and online consumption growing at exponential levels during the COVID period, we saw the same happen in banking and to an extent. So definitely people are a lot more open to using technologies, banking apps, doing self-service sort of offerings and capabilities online where they don't have to move into branch environments. That's growing significantly.
Welcome to Bulkshare Future Voices, the podcast where we explore the future of consumer insight, AI, brand marketing, and customer experience, with the visionaries shaping what comes next. On this episode, we're joined by Sheila Akinnusi, a seasoned leader in marketing, research, and strategy with nearly 2 decades of experience across financial services, insurance, and FMCG. From driving brand growth to shaping consumer insight strategies, Sheila's work has helped businesses innovate and connect more deeply with their audiences. As the former chairperson and board member of the South African Marketing Research Association, Sheila has represented the industry on the global stage, judging, speaking, and moderating at major events. Her expertise spans brand and business growth, client experience, customer journey mapping, and market segmentation, all driven by a deep passion for consumers, marketing, and the positive impact companies can have on society. Tune in to learn how you can harness consumer insights for financial innovation and why truly understanding your audience is the key to banking on success. Please welcome to the podcast, Sheila Akinnusi. Sheila, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Khalifa. I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. How are you doing? I hear
Well.
good, wonderful things about the weather in Joburg. How are you?
If only that was true. We've had a lot of rain here. It sometimes feels we're down in the Cape during winter, but all good. Thanks.
No. Hopefully, with winter coming through to South Africa, it'll be quick, it'll be fast, and you can jump right back to spring and summer again.
100%.
So Sheila, first of all, thank you so much for just taking the time to chat with us here at Bulkshare in terms of what we're seeing in the financial services industry, which I'm sure you've seen. We definitely have a shift, not only in consumer expectations, but just digital transformation and AI as a whole. And I'm going to open myself up here and say that when I was snooping on your LinkedIn, I'm sure it exposed who was looking at your profile. I just knew that you being a seasoned expert in market research, you were just someone we had to have on the podcast just to explore smart research and how essentially being smart in how you go about consumer insights and market research is how you can actually shape the future of finance. So, from the shifting expectations you're seeing from consumers to the rise of AI, I'm sure the banking world is evolving fast, right?
Absolutely. It certainly is. And it's in a really exciting space, I think, for all of us as consumers and as businesses who are responsible for delivering new products and services and experience for our clients. Having been in the field for 20 years, I've certainly seen a lot of changes, but this one by far is the most exciting for consumers and us as brands as well. Yeah. So if I had to give you some context around, what we're seeing shift-wise, I think a lot of things have been accelerated digitally as a result of COVID. If we think about our parallel industries like the retailers and, the growth of online shopping and online consumption growing at exponential levels during the COVID period, we saw the same happen in banking and to an extent. So definitely people are a lot more open to using technologies, banking apps, doing self-service sort of offerings and capabilities online where they don't have to move into branch environments. That's growing significantly, but it's also it has to be supported with a lot of responsibility as well on consumers' parts as well as ourselves as brands. We know there's a lot going on with fraud and online safety and security when it comes to your money, especially. So there's a lot of education that still is required. And I think as banks, we're doing our part. But on the consumer part, it's quite challenging, especially as things get a little bit more sophisticated in terms of how some of these technologies, the AIs are working, and even sometimes from a fraud perspective, how they're trying to incorporate malicious ways of getting access to people's accounts. So it's a balancing act. there's definitely a lot of good. And there's equally a lot of bad that we have to kind of balance out. But definitely the future is brighter than where we've been before, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess then just diving into, the first question I have for you, which is essentially just asking, like, how have you seen market research and consumer insights sort of shape decision making when it comes to the financial services industry?
So I think in that context, sometimes it feels like the consumers have led brands. In
Yeah.
many instances, we've had to be pulled into the journey as a result of seeing what's happening in other kind of categories. So
Mm,
telcos, for example, drive quite a lot of change in behavior from consumers, in terms of adopting new ways of transacting, adopting new ways of behaving in the market. We see that now with retailers as well. So as
mm,
banks, we're also having to keep up with a lot of the trends. And South African banking as a whole is quite advanced in terms of how we offer, you know, uh, innovative products and solutions, innovative ways of partnering with alternative brands or parallel brands that can support and offer more value to our client bases. So, in that instance, we see a lot of expectations from consumers. I think that's now the latest and greatest. It's not about your banking fees necessarily. It's not about, the features and benefits I'm going to get just in the banking product itself. What other
mm,
offerings are you going to offer me as a client that supports my
mm,
lifestyle? So that can be
mm,
anything from, rewards, for different retailers, or travel benefits, or whatever you need as a consumer,
mm,
access to digital or mobile money or data, or whatever the case may be. It's not an
mm,
expectation that consumers are thinking about a brand engagement just from that category. It's to
mm,
say, how do you encompass my entire experience as an individual and make things more convenient for me, and make it more palatable in terms of all the things I have to get done on a daily basis. And that's what we're seeing from consumers.
mm. Absolutely. And I think for me, especially as someone who banks with one of the best banks, I believe, here in South Africa, two things for me as a consumer, then it's very much, yes, of course, you help me with saving my money and doing my
Mm,
transactions. But like you spoke to lifestyle, the first time I traveled overseas, I used the bank card to pay for my flights, and getting automatic
mm,
insurance, for example, just eliminated almost like
absolutely.
50% of my stress, because I thought, oh my word, there's travel insurance I need to get too.
Exactly.
But because I bought that using my bank, having that covered was just such a blessing. I just bought a
Mm.
car.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And again, the same bank, I have a relationship banker, and just all of the advice that I got from her that I wouldn't
Mm,
have gotten from any other bank, because that's just not the relationship I have at the bank that I have at the moment. I
mm,
just go,
mm,
this speaks to the lifestyle aspect of what I actually do want from a bank these days. It's
mm,
not just about
mm,
saving
mm.
money, it's about how do you fit with my lifestyle. There are extra
Exactly.
needs I have. When I do get married, have a partner, can I have a partner account or share an account with my partner? So that's really, really interesting to see, and kind of echo the fact that, yeah, consumer expectations have changed when it comes to banking. And moving over to the next question I have for you, which is, can you perhaps share a light bulb moment where you observed
Mm,
that shift in consumer expectations around banking, and
mm.
how can businesses adapt to those shifts?
I think I'll probably explore it in the context around the relationship consumers have with money rather than
Mm,
banking per se.
mm,
And I would say, I think the biggest shift definitely was COVID, when we saw, everyone was under a lot of financial pressure. A lot of people had to carry and weather a really difficult storm in terms of maybe being retrenched or losing some of their income. There's periods of obviously having payment holidays on big assets like properties and cars and
mm,
things like that. But at that time, I think it just brought into sharp focus for consumers the role they can play in taking control of their own lives
mm,
through money. In many
mm,
instances, it was a case of, okay, I have my money, I deposit it in the bank account, whatever happens, it's taken care of there, or the investment account will work as it needs to. Whereas with COVID, what we actually started to see happen was people saying, well, let me understand this product that I have a little bit better. Am I
mm,
getting the best value and the best bang for my money?
mm.
Can I have more control in that journey? And we almost saw something called almost like do it yourself services, where
Yeah.
people started I'm sure you saw the trend of, people started trading Forex here and there,
Yeah, yeah.
buying stocks, shares, all that type of thing. That was not really part of a lot of the conversation prior to COVID. I think it happened for a number of reasons. One, we had time on our hands. So many people were at home and could actually spend time reflecting on how they're managing their money and their lifestyles for the future that they were looking for. But at the same time, they had the time to be educated a little bit more and do some digging and try and understand a little bit more to say, how do I make my money go further? Because in many instances, everyone was under pressure at that time to make things happen. And as a result, we saw, uptake in interest in different types of savings mechanisms, investing mechanisms that we didn't have before, or they were there, but they just weren't being exposed as much as they are being exposed and used to now. So definitely that was the biggest shift that we've seen, is people wanting to take more control over how their money is managed, invested, where it goes, for how long, asking more questions, and just trying to get the best value for the money that they have today and for the future.
Interesting, interesting. And I guess bringing up the topic that is quite hot right now, which is AI. We know that various industries are adopting AI. I know in marketing for us, it's not just ChatGPT creating social media captions. Now it's create full-on strategies if we have the right prompt that we input it. And I can imagine that AI adoption in banking comes with strict regulatory and ethical considerations. So
absolutely.
What are some of the biggest challenges in integrating AI into consumer insights together with the financial services industry?
I think I'll start with a positive spin on it, because I do think a lot of the time we're quite panicked about, what the influx of AI offers. Personally, I am quite excited about it. I think I'll start with a market research context. I think it's incredibly valuable to us. We use it as a team all the time. And it's actually helped. It's almost like an additional creative brain that is within your team. It's your digital team member, as we call it in our environment, that helps us refine, clarify, sometimes reposition some thoughts that we have around, either discussion guide prep or prompts for objectives. It really has elevated the way we can think strategically about what it is we're doing. And it's because we understand the role that it has in the team. You're always going to have that face-to-face engagement or that human engagement with your business stakeholders. The AI can't do that. To understand what is the frame of the problem, the business problem we're trying to solve for through research, and actually give it then the information it needs to help guide you in terms of how best to approach any work that you're doing. So I see it as a compliment. And I think in banking as well as a whole, we definitely have embraced it from that approach to say, let AI do the heavy lifting work that us as humans can be spending better time doing other things, which the sort of mundane or operational work that can be automated, the AI can look after, because it definitely is a superpower. We've seen it in spaces where you've got to do complex financial calculations, or running your checks and balances from an accounting perspective, all of those sort of things where there's set formula and set ways of calculating things and automating things. It's been brilliant from that perspective. That means people are freed up to look for other things to optimize in the business, to make more efficient in the business, and to deliver new opportunities and new growth for the brand. Because as much as the AI can probably give you suggestions, you as the individuals need to go into the market and refine it to suit the consumer base that you're dealing with, or the business environment that you're dealing with. So I'm incredibly excited by it. I think it's offered a lot of value to our business already. And sometimes we actually ask ourselves, how are we managing without it actually?
Yeah.
Say goodbye to data sprawl with Knowledge AI from Boldshare, your AI co-pilot that will transform the way you work. Knowledge AI interrogates your entire database, doing all your analysis for you in seconds rather than days. So let's jump in. First up, you'll want to log into mybulbshare.com and tap on Knowledge AI. So what do you want to know? Just type your research question into the search bar. Within a few seconds, Knowledge AI will pull up all your historic data, quotes, and insights from your data library around that subject, simplified into a convenient bullet point list with all sources cited. You can deep dive into the data as much as you want, asking follow-up questions via conversational analysis, interrogating the reports for more intel, or backing up your findings with external data. That's right, Knowledge AI can search the web for any relevant insights to supplement your existing research. Again, just tell it what you need and it will appear, like magic. And it doesn't stop there. Once you've digested that information, you might want to vary the size of the dataset you're looking at, asking the AI to draw from a specific project with AI project analysis, where you'll receive an exec summary, key themes, barriers, recommendations, and conclusions. You can even compare data across international markets or contrast community segment responses. Helpful, huh? But wait, we can zoom in even further. Hone in on an individual study via brief level analysis, letting you isolate insights for even more targeted results. Knowledge AI is also connected to Bolshare's analytics dashboard and crosstabs, equipping you with live data visualization tools and tables to compare variables across subgroups. Once you're happy, download everything into an automated report to share with your colleagues and ace your next presentation. So there you go. Knowledge AI takes the heavy lifting out of research, saving hours of analysis time and making sure you don't repeat existing studies. Now, you've got the knowledge. To see how Knowledge AI can supercharge your research, visit bolshare.com today.
That's true. I will admit, yeah, it took me quite some time. I think as a creative, I almost got worried in thinking that, oh no, this AI thing is going to do half my job. And I looked at it from that lens of this is something that it should not replace my function. But I think you've really put it beautifully. It's more about just kind of optimizing and going, what are some of those processes that can be automated and let AI do that? Well, I can sit and really focus more on just adding my creative, my human element and optimize other things where AI can kind of just take care of just simply automating things for me. So that's a really beautiful way to put you've been using AI. And I guess still on the topic, what role will AI and predictive analytics, do you think, what role will it play in the future of banking and the financial services industry?
Yeah, that's a tricky one for me. I mean, we've dabbled with predictive analytics and to an extent investigated things like synthetic research and all the sort of forward-looking, forecasting ways of doing work. I can't answer it for sure. I'm not sure about it because there's still, for me, there's a lot of merit in understanding what is. And I think COVID was one of those things nobody saw it coming. So everyone's predictive models were kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And we see in our geopolitical landscape now, it is so difficult to predict more than sometimes 6 months ahead of us. So I think for me, it's more important to be agile in the moment and to be able to have multiple strategies that you can apply to say, if various scenarios come my way, how would I pivot? How would I adjust to, and actually spend more time building resilience within the business and resilience within your team members to actually cope with those changes as they come, rather than looking too far ahead for a future that nobody knows. Because I actually personally, I've always asked myself the question of all the predictive models that we've used in the past, how many have actually come to fruition? Or have they been used as a guide to say these are the strategies and scenarios you could put in place to help you, which you could do anyway, without the analytics involved in that. So I'm still for the current in terms of understanding what's happening in front of me now, but also having approaches and strategies in place to assist you think about various scenarios you might have to plan for. And then the rest comes from an intrinsic perspective of just building a lot of grit and resilience to deal with whatever comes your way. But I definitely think AI is a great partner for us. We didn't have that. COVID days, we didn't have a ChatGPT to help guide us. Say, how do I weather this storm? So I think we're definitely in way better shape than we were before to handle anything.
Yeah, true. No, you're absolutely right. It is really hard to kind of really hone in on like what specific role AI could play, because I think it's also always developing. I think it's just as it learns, as we learn it, and there really is just no finite way to go. If 2 years from now I would like to buy a home, give me the steps to get there. It's just like, okay, give me the 10 steps, but what happens
Yeah.
if I decide to move overseas? It becomes
100%.
actually, we can only do so much with AI, but I think it's been lovely to hear how you kind of see both sides to it, right? Like, yes, this big scary thing that's out there, but we don't have to see it that way. We really can see it as something that can really be an enabler, a helper, something that can optimize and automate processes while we can still bring that intrinsic humanness to the table.
Absolutely. That for me, I think it's an exciting time for us as researchers in our domain. I think we're in the best field. Us and our psychology counterparts, anything to do with human understanding, I think we're best positioned to deal with any future that's coming, because you're always going to have a need to understand, well, how is the human brain working? And how are humans moving? Because the humans are here. We are not going anywhere, God willing.
Yeah. Well, we're going to Mars. I believe Elon's trying to take us to Mars.
Yes.
But the rest of us,
for the rest of us who will be left on the planet Earth, somebody needs to understand us, and I think that's where we come in.
True. No, true. Oh, Sheila, this has been such a lovely conversation. And once again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I just have one more question for you, and that is, what are your 3 tips for businesses who are looking to harness market research for success and innovation in banking?
I would say, remember who your audience is and remember who you're doing this for. I think sometimes being in business and being in corporates, we can get quite lost in the internal operations of what we're doing. And if we always keep the consumer, the end client or the end consumer in focus of why we're doing what we're doing, I think we'll always be in great shape. So number one, remember to keep your client front of mind in any work that you're doing. It must be the reason why the work is being done. Otherwise, why are we all here? Number two, don't overcomplicate things. I think sometimes we tend to be quite verbose in the way we work and think and speak. Simpler is definitely better in many instances, and especially in a world where it's quite volatile, it's quite complex, there's a lot happening. We don't need to add more layers to that complexity. So be as simple and clear as possible in any initiatives that you're doing. And then the third, I think, is to hone in, as I said earlier, in building the skills of finding grit and building grit within yourself and your teams and your people, because that's important to keep going and to continue to find the passion of why we're actually doing the work that we do. I definitely think that is important, because within that, if you're willing to be passionate, stay focused, stay engaged, you'll be willing to adopt new things like AI and be open to the change and be open to learn and try something new. I think there's a lot we can always benefit from that level of optimism. And those will be my 3.
Oh, amazing. Oh, Sheila, that's a wonderful way to end off the episode. Once again, thank you so much. This really was so insightful, not just for me, but I know it was going to be insightful for our audience too. And it really is why I had to make sure that we got you on our podcast. So from the bottom of my banking market research heart, thank you, Sheila. Seriously, this was wonderful.
Thank you, Khalifa.
I hope this won't be the last that we hear from you. But for now, thank you.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, Khalifa.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of BulkShare Future Voices. We hope you enjoyed the insights and fresh perspectives shared by our guest. Now, if you're ready to dive deeper into the world of consumer insights and co-creation, head over to bulkshare.com to learn more about how we're helping brands connect with real voices from across the globe.